Black is great, grace death from our sight. White as light, mighty hectate make it right.
I myself am strange and unusual.
Cast a circle, spark some incense, and grab a cup of tea, because it's time for the Cousins Coven podcast. I'm here with my cousin, and we're here to talk all things witchy, paranormal, cryptid, aliens, and beyond. My name is Sharon, a self-proclaimed witch and seeker of the truth.
And I'm Wendy. I'm armed with a wealth of experiences and inspired by anything paranormal.
And please welcome our special guest, my close friend and herbal witch, Maria.
Hi, my name is Maria.
Hi, Maria.
Hi, Wendy. It's nice to finally meet you.
Yes, you too.
Sharon's always talking about you. It's making me jealous.
I think I talk about both of you to each
Yeah.
other. So yeah, it's good that you're finally meeting.
Yes. I mean, I've known Sharon since birth, so that's why she talks about me. Okay, so today we're discussing sleep paralysis and astral projection. But first, it's time for cauldron topics. And since we have a guest, we wanted to ask Maria. Maria, how did you get started in witchcraft?
I suppose I got into it when I was young. I'm going to say 6 or 7. I started going out and just doing weird witchy things, I would use to describe it. Gathering flowers and jars and rocks and soil and collecting them and knowing that I was going to have a purpose for them one day. Just being really connected to the earth. And then when I started to learn about witches, I learned about how green witches had deep connections to the earth. So I started looking into that more. And I guess I just kind of thought I was just born a witch.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, which is awesome because it connects to your element because of your birth month. Like you are a earth element.
Yeah, it's crazy. I never really thought about the whole elements to being a witch, like with you being water. Mm-hmm. And I see your deep connection now with water and me being earth. I just think I always had this crazy just passion for just anything green that grows and animals too. I remember my mom used to tell me when I was little that she would catch me outside playing with the birds. She told me that they would chase me and I would chase them back. And
a Disney princess.
Yeah, she thought it was. I remember her telling me in Spanish. She doesn't speak any English. She would just tell me how weird she thought it was, how curious it was to watch me play in the front yard with birds. And she caught me eating bird seed a few times. So I'm thinking that's probably why they were chasing me, is because I kept eating their food.
So they were kind of being territorial.
I really like the seeds. Yeah, I don't know why.
That was your way of becoming one with nature. Acting like a bird.
If I'd become a bird. I used to like going into the woods. All my friends always knew they could always find me. I have like a weird little setup in there. It was weird. I think about it. Well, we grew up in a neighborhood that was just surrounded by woods, so we'd want to hide out from parents.
That's definitely relatable because we both grew up in Oregon and it's so beautiful there. So going outside and walking, and even in the rain, just walking around, it would be amazing.
Right.
That's nice. And then for practicing witchcraft, I suppose I started practicing really like hardcore witchcraft when after I had seen The Craft. I was like, whoa, I want to be like her. I don't even know what year did that movie come out.
Somewhere in the late 90s,
late
I
90s.
think.
How old I must have been when I first watched it.
Yeah, it's definitely influential.
Yeah, so it's so funny, that dang movie.
Yeah.
It is.
Everybody always brings up The Craft. The Craft, or in The Craft. I remember watching it and being
Guilty.
like, I want to be like Nancy, not evil and crazy. You know, I wanted to have dolphins and sharks for me on the beach.
Yeah. She would definitely ask for all the power of Mano.
But I wouldn't have been all crazy. But it's such a good movie.
Yeah, the third act is when it's a little questionable.
Yeah.
How does this show always go back to The Craft?
I know. I listened to your first one.
So, Maria, as an herbal witch, can you tell us some of the best herbs to use in a witch's garden?
I feel that I had this whole lineup of what I was going to do and like how I was going to have my garden set up. And over here I was going to have these plants. And over here I was going to have these. But in Texas, it is so hot and it'll just rain. Like, it's been raining for how many days now, nonstop?
Like 4?
It's just so crazy. So I think that you just have to just try and see whatever you can keep alive, you know, in your own little garden. If you have a big, like me, whatever I can get, I'm just like, thank you for surviving with me, because the winters and the heat here and the rain, I think for any witch, it's just I think herb has an amazing purpose. Rosemary. Do you guys hear about rosemary a lot in spells?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a common
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, well, for me, I didn't really ever I didn't really hear too much of rosemary, but I love my rosemary plant. She grows and she's strong and she can take droughts and rain flooding her little pot. So I like to have strong plants that can survive and can survive with you, because everybody's different. Everybody has a different schedule. You know, if you can have a lot of time to take care of your plants, then I think you should be specific the way I was hoping to be. But I went from having like a plan of having 20 plants to like 15 that I can use for this, and then 8 that are good for that. But I think for a witch, think about what you use in your everyday life. Like, I like to take bath spells, and rosemary is really good for that. Plus, I cook a lot with it. I like to have mint, because mint's also good for my bath spells, and aloe vera is really good. I think you just have to just think about what you would like yourself as a witch and try to just work with it. And it's so hard having plants to use. Some people are like, have these huge amazing gardens, and I'm just like, how do you find the time? They're so needy sometimes. But I think for witches, just whatever you feel you need and you use all the time that you can put to use, or has multiple uses, culinary uses, medical uses, you know, things like that.
That's definitely a smart choice to go. And of course, you have sage as well.
Oh yeah, everybody got to have
Everybody
sage.
got sage.
That's something it's the best right there.
But you said you only lost like 5 plants, so that's not that bad.
Yeah, but a lot of them, I mean, some plants I planted and thinking they would bloom and I could use the flower, and it's just like they're just staring at me every day like, nope. I've had some plants for years and they don't bloom. I had plants for 3 years and they bloom one time, you know, and I don't really go too much into researching about the plant, you know. Some people come over and they're like, oh, when those bloom you have to chop off the flowers because then they'll die, and I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'll do something like that. Like, okay, I had a basil plant, and my friend who's a chef, he's like, you have to cut the flowers or the basil will die. So I cut the flowers and the basil stayed alive, but then my friend Vinny, her plant had the little flowers, and I was like, are you going to cut them? Is your basil going to die? And she's like, nope, it's still alive and it's been blooming, and now I feel bad for balding my basil.
Aw, that sucks. So did you guys want to do one random cauldron topic together?
Yes, absolutely. Let's see what we
Random
have.
ones?
Yeah. I'm going to try something random here. Okay, so moon phases and types of moon magic.
Yeah, that's something that I like to look up. I don't really always follow. I tend to just do spells when I'm available and when I'm free. But me and Maria and our other friend Vinny will try to meet up like every full moon. So that's a good time to meet for any type of magic. It's supposed to be really powerful and amplified. A good time to connect with like the goddess, things like that.
Cool.
Yeah, every full moon we've been doing that for a long time now. I think.
At least a year, if not 2 years. That's really the only thing I would do in tune with the moon. But the waxing moon is when it's going to be growing in size from like crescent to a full moon. So you'd want to do, by the book, if you're going to do it, you'd want to do something that's a spell to bring something into your life, like a new job, just changes, things that you want to bring in. And then the waning moon phase is good for banishing spells and things like that.
And what about different types of moons? So, like, you know, sometimes there's the harvest moon, the blue moon. Do you guys do anything special with the different types of moons?
Sometimes when we have time.
Yeah, like I remember one of the moons was a buck moon, and it was because I guess it was like kind of like almost a little bit sexual, right? Because all the
Right.
sorry to make you spit out your drink, but right, it was just I forgot what it was. There's so many moons.
I don't
moons
remember
ago.
this sexual moon.
It was a bug moon. I have to give me a second.
What was oh,
But
it was
we did
probably
a
like
spell
a
appropriate for it. It was like I guess like a love spells that we did. You know, I forgot what it was.
maybe it was one of the times when it was like the god and goddess like fertility kind of thing.
Yeah.
Must have been during spring.
I remember being affected by that bug moon.
I know over the summertime, my daughter and I, we have this little like kiddie pool that we put our feet into when it's really hot. And so I remember there was a full moon and we went out and like literally we're like barely wearing any clothes because it's so hot outside, and we just get out and we're like, look, we're dancing under the full moon.
Nice. Did you go sky clad?
No. But I mean, I do have a lot of neighbors. But
That's my fear of like having a backyard, but there's just too many neighbors to where I won't feel free to do like my weird magic shit outside.
And little kids. I'm always afraid like the little neighbor kids, or the little boys are going to be like, oh my gosh.
They're going to be peeking.
Everyone would be so afraid.
Yeah, they'd be like, don't look in their backyard ever.
Yes. So I think we are actually at a good time to move on to our main segment.
All right, perfect. So we're going to talk about sleep paralysis first. So when you're experiencing sleep paralysis, man, it can be absolutely terrifying. And after some intense research, I found out that many cultures have known about sleep paralysis for centuries, all of them giving a different explanation. Many cultures believe it's a demon trying to lay claim to your soul or attempting to suck it out of your body. And some cultures think it's some other form of demon, like in the shape of an animal, possibly. Although the accounts vary about the type of demon, these demons all seem to have the same type of purpose, and that's to take your soul, which is so scary.
Yeah, I have heard that a lot of people see like the lower levels and that the demons are coming through. And I'm sure if that's the first thing you see when you cross over, it's terrifying.
Right. So another thing that sleep paralysis could be is projective catalepsy. And this is when you are trying to return to your body after doing some sort of astral projection, but you're unable to connect with your body. It's almost like you're trying to realign yourself to get back into the body, which I'm not sure how that works. Maybe we'll go into that a little bit in the next segment when we're talking about astral projection a little bit more. But supposedly there's this tether between your body and you, and if you can't get back in, it may be that the tether is just slightly off. It's kind of odd to think about. But the good news is that with the onset of modern Western medicine, doctors have been able to determine that sleep paralysis may actually be caused by a couple of different things. It could be seizures, you might not be getting enough sleep, you might be so overstressed, or let's say your sleep patterns are split, like sometimes people who work night shift might be more apt to have sleep paralysis, or it may be that it's inherited. So, I mean, in theory, I guess if your parent has had sleep paralysis, then it's possible you could have sleep paralysis too.
I think so. I agree with that. I remember being really young and hearing my dad in the next room. I wasn't allowed to be in. He was super old school. So when he was in the room talking with my brothers, he wouldn't let us be in there listening, me and my sisters. I remember eavesdropping and hearing him talk about how he's been getting sleep paralysis, and he's telling my brothers, like, if you're ever scared, when it's happening to you, you'll have enough strength to tell him that you're not scared, at least, to speak up. And I remember just not knowing what he was talking about until I experienced sleep paralysis later, and it was so crazy to think about. I mean, if it would be genetic, I'd be really angry at my parents for giving me that.
Right. You're like, why? I know that my daughter gets sleep paralysis a lot, and I've experienced it. So for me, I'm like, shoot, I'm so sorry if I gave that to you.
I find that odd that your dad wouldn't warn you guys about it either, but he was just warning
I guess he just didn't want us to be scared because we hadn't brought up that we were having it, or I don't think I had it when I remember that conversation.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a sleep paralysis like story you wanted to share?
Well, whenever I would have sleep paralysis, I've had it hundreds of times, and they usually are just the type where you don't see anything or hear anything. But I've had two experiences that were really, really bad. I remember I was sleeping a lot. I was a young teenager, and for some reason, this one specific week, I was just sleeping so much. And I remember being in and out of sleep, and I could hear my mom asking my little sister, like, what is your sister on? Is she on drugs? Why is she sleeping? And I remember thinking in my half-sleep state, like, no, Mom, I'm not on drugs. I'm just really, really sleepy. And I remember that right after that had happened, I had my very first experience that was really bad, and it was super crazy. I remember I was laying in a room, so my feet were kind of facing the door and my head was against the wall. My bed was right in front of the door, so the whole room was dark, but I could see the light shining in from underneath the door from the kitchen or the living room, the other part of the house. So I had a pretty good view of the room, but I remember just laying there in half asleep state, and I was on my stomach, which is really weird because usually when I get sleep paralysis or when people get it, they always talk about how they're sleeping on their backs. But for me, I was sleeping on my stomach, and I felt like long, sharp claws just like both put their 2 hands where my shoulders were and all the way down to my lower back. And it was like not like a sexy, it was a violent, like crazy scratch. And I remember flipping over really fast, and I could just feel hands on me, and I wasn't able to move. Must have been just laying on my back now, and this time I was paralyzed, and I just felt like a whole hand grab my chest, and like I felt tongues on me. It was so disgusting. And I remember kicking so hard that I finally kicked myself out of bed and woke up on the floor, and I was just freaking out and crying, and so much to where I didn't sleep very much for the rest of the week. I was just like, I've had enough sleep, and I'm not going to sleep anymore. And that was my first really bad experience. In between that one and the other one, I've had others where it's just like me waking up, not seeing anything, recognizing where I'm at a little bit, but mostly just being paralyzed and being held down. And I remember what my dad would say. And so I'd always try to do that, and I would just scream curses at whatever was trying to hold me down, and I would say I wasn't afraid, and I snapped myself out of it. But the second time that I had a very bad experience was when I was sleeping at my sister's apartment, and it was like, I remember having a really good night the night before. So I remember I was laying on the bed, and it was early morning, so the sun was already up. There's already light shining in the room. I could see everything clear as day. And I woke up to 2 hands pretty much around my neck. I remember being able to feel thumbs and fingers choking me super hard. And I remember trying to grab for arms, like these arms that I guess ghost arms. I was trying to reach for whatever I could to get whatever was on me off of me. And I just couldn't. And I remember just kicking my legs. And this time was weird now that I think about it, because I wasn't really paralyzed. I was able to move pretty fast in a panic. I mean, I guess paralyzed in a way that I couldn't fully sit up, but I remember being able to move my arms and trying to reach for something that wasn't there, and I was able to move my arms enough to loudly bang on the wall where I knew my sister was in the next room, and I knew I'd wake her up with the way I was knocking. So I start banging on the wall, and she storms in, and I'm able to take a breath, and I noticed that I was already awake. So I was just like, I don't know if you can call that. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's sleep paralysis, but I know for a fact that I was awake. I didn't re-wake up, you know? Mm-hmm. It was crazy. And my sister's boyfriend came in, and he looked at my neck, and I had these little red marks, like there had been fingers there. And I remember I just cried and didn't sleep well for a long time after that. Just always waiting for something to come at night. Like sleep paralysis was just like, and I didn't, still at that age, I think with that experience, I might have been 15, 14. So I don't think I had like, there wasn't cell phones and stuff. So I wasn't able to go and look up, things on my phone. And I was really oblivious to what sleep paralysis was until I started talking to other people, and they were telling me their experiences and what they saw. And I was like, oh, that has to be what I'm having too then,
Yeah, it's such a different time now. We can research this.
Yeah, I could just be like, hold up. I'm going to look at my phone.
Yeah, 5
really
minutes,
quick.
please. Yeah.
I need to get this together. What is happening?
Right.
Those are my only 2 experiences.
So both times you didn't see anything, you just felt it, right?
Yeah, both times I saw nothing. No, I saw nothing, but I could feel it, and it was so crazy because, sometimes I watch Ghost Adventures, and the guys talk about how they feel claws on their ears, and they're like visibly shaken, and I'm just like, they're not really. But now I think about like, no, remember you also felt claws on you one night, like terrified. And
did you wake up with scratches on your back on that first time?
I don't think.
Did you have scratches?
I don't remember if I was able to. If I even got up and told anybody about it. I remember just sitting up in bed. I don't think I went to go tell my mom about it, because she would have just told me I was crazy, or I was sleeping, or it was a dream. I don't think I went to go examine myself.
So nothing long-term effect.
Yeah, no, nothing. I've never gotten long-term effects. But those are my only 2 experiences that were really bad.
Mm-hmm. And I've never experienced sleep paralysis, so I don't have a personal account, but Wendy, I know you have.
Yeah, I've only experienced it a couple of times, which I'm very thankful for, because I feel like it's just so so terrifying to me. So one of my main experiences that I dealt with was when I first separated from my first husband. I lived alone for the first time in this really little apartment. And my first week that I was there, I was really nervous because I was young, living on my own. And I slept with this baseball bat right next to my bed and then a butcher knife like under my mattress because I was like, what if somebody breaks in? I'm gonna be ready for this.
Don't we all?
Yeah. So I was like,
They should make like a multi butcher knife bat for us.
right.
And it's pink.
Yeah. I was just really scared, I think, to be on my own for the first time. And so the first week that I was there, I was trying to keep on a regular schedule and I would go to bed at a specific time every night. So I remember that the sun was coming up. So I was already waking up. And at first I thought I was having a dream, but I wasn't. It was like I could hear somebody trying to get into the apartment, like rattling my door and somehow undoing the chain, because I had one of those little chains. And so I woke myself up like in a panic and I was trying to get up. My eyes were wide open, but I couldn't move. And then all of a sudden, this man came into my room all dressed in black. And he kind of hovered over me and I could feel his breath in my face and I could not move at all. I couldn't speak. Yeah, I was so scared. And the only sound that was coming from me was like this, like I was trying to scream from my throat. You know how when you're trying to scream, but you can't. And then he started running from the room and it was kind of like I was released from that paralyzed state. And I heard the front door open and slam closed. And so I grabbed my bat and I ran out, just looking for this guy. And I looked at my door and it was locked and it's secured with the little chain. And I was like, what the heck was that? It made me think, okay, so maybe I just heard, I was trying to rationalize it. I was like, well, maybe I just heard the neighbors open and closing their doors. Cause you know how it is when you live in an apartment that's kind of, you can hear your neighbors coming and going sometimes. I thought, well, maybe I heard that, but there was a man hovering over me. How could I explain that? I just couldn't.
Yeah, that's super terrifying. I can't imagine not being able to move in that situation or being able to move in that situation. Either way, it sucks.
Yeah, terrifying. I've had little experiences here and there too, but most of them I'd feel that they're not the same as sleep paralysis because usually it's some sort of spirit involved, like somebody trying to tell me something. So sometimes I'll just be woken in the middle of the night and I won't be able to move, but I can see a spirit and hear a spirit trying to talk to me. So for me, that doesn't seem the same as sleep paralysis because I think maybe they're just trying to get my attention.
It seems like other beings from different dimensions can communicate with humans when you're in astral states or sleep paralysis states. Like
right.
When you're in that place of half sleep, half awake. So if demons and weird entities can come through, who's to say spirits can't come through? So maybe that is
right.
Sleep paralysis.
It's hard for me because I don't really believe in demons per se. So I don't know I don't know why. I tried to explain this in a blog the other day. I was like, I don't know why I feel that way, but
I feel the same way.
That's the thing with my sleep paralysis that scares me too, is that I didn't have sometimes I think maybe I watched a scary movie and, my mind was just telling me, but back then I didn't, and I still don't really believe in demonic things. But I know that whatever happened that night wasn't, I don't know, I can't explain it.
Right.
Just like the person walking into your apartment,
yeah.
I don't know, it's not like you maybe, I don't know, I can't explain it.
It's unexplainable.
I know.
Right.
Is it something you really saw, or is it just some horrible
Is it your
dream?
mind?
Yeah.
But the detail, I feel you've had dreams that have details.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, but just like you heard the chain, before you were even completely awake, or, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It just kind of reminds me of when I was learning about that projective catalepsy. I was like, well, what if I was unintentionally astral projecting and was trying to get back to my body, but something else was trying to get in there too?
Yeah,
That's
which
scary to think about.
I know, right?
I've heard that is a serious threat. Like, that can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the reason why I kind of stepped away from trying to astral project a lot. It's because I think I heard on a radio show one day, it must have been, what's his name? who's always talking about weird things on
Like
the radio.
Art Bell?
Yeah, it was a late show.
Like a Coast to
and they were
Coast?
talking about it, they were talking about sleep paralysis, and I remember him cutting out right before cutting out to commercials, he's all like, and so if you're not in your body, can somebody else get in your body? And then he just like cuts to commercials, and I remember being like, I should probably stop now.
You're like,
You took that as a PSA.
No, don't do this.
Yeah, right? I was enjoying it.
I don't know. I think that they say as long as you tell them they can't take your body or get in your body, you should be fine.
Right.
But I don't know if you can do that. Yeah, you just have to do that every time before you go to bed.
Shotgun. Just yell out shotgun.
Right.
This is my seat.
I hope that works.
I don't know. It doesn't really work for shotgun.
Well, do we have anything else to talk about for sleep paralysis, or are we ready to move on?
I think we could transition to the astral projection talk.
Okay, sounds good. So, and one of the things that I was studying with astral projection, I found out that it was supposed to be, some people were saying that it was really a natural way of life because it takes your consciousness to a natural state. And so when I'm talking about consciousness, really that's just another word for your spirit or your soul, whatever word you want to call it. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, if you truly believe that the consciousness was around before the body, then astral projection would be as old as the soul, which is kind of a whole other topic when we're talking about the soul. Yeah. So it's like asking, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Because the chicken would be the body and the egg would be the soul. So
maybe the egg is like astral projecting and he's a chicken.
Maybe.
You're making me hungry. But I saw that there were two types, right? Have y'all heard about how there's two types of astral projection?
No, I have not. What are the two types?
Yeah, teach us.
No, I completely forgot. So. That's why I was asking y'all.
No, I haven't, but I have heard you really can't astral project if you're frustrated, and that would be a big reason why you can't do it. And I know that there's different techniques to astral project. I've tried a couple of them with no success, by the way. But there's the Monroe technique, which you need to do in all of them, which is just focusing on your vibration around you and the vibration in your body. And you just try to feel your limbs leaving and getting into the hypnagogic state, which is between like awake and asleep. So there's the rope theory. You just relax, you sleep, you do the vibration state, and then you're going to visualize a rope hanging above you and just that your astral body reaches up and starts pulling itself out. There's a hammock theory that's similar to that. You just imagine yourself in a hammock and that you're swinging side to side, and then eventually your astral body and then the physical body will separate. There's one that I tried doing last night, which is the stretch out technique. It's supposed to be the easiest way, and that's why I tried it. It's where you visualize your feet stretching out like a few inches, like your astral feet stretching out, and then you go back to your head stretching out, and then back and forth, stretching out more and more until you actually take up like the space of your whole room, which is just some Alice in Wonderland shit. But I fell asleep, so I didn't astral project.
That's always a big problem, falling asleep.
Yeah, I fall asleep every time I attempt it. There was one night, however, I had like this YouTube music on, and I think it was supposed to help you get like an out-of-body experience. And I was woken up by my husband coming to bed because he just had the light on in the hallway and was making a little bit of noise. So I got to that like half awake, half asleep place. And in that time period, like I started shaking all over uncontrollably. It felt so weird. The next day I realized, oh my God, I got to the vibrational state. And I was so scared when it was happening. I kept trying to tell Wayne, they're coming for my body. That's all I could say, but I was like mumbling it really slow. Like it's so hard to speak when you're not awake. So I don't even know if I was saying words, but that's what I intended to say. And he remembers this the next day when I asked him about it. He was like, yeah, I don't know what you were saying about your body, but I just went to bed. So that's like the furthest I've gotten, which is so close. But basically I was just too scared to get out of my body. And I don't know what the fear was. Has that ever happened to either of you guys? You were too scared to leave?
I remember seeing, when I was brushing up terribly, something about that too, that a lot of people just don't, they're just too scared. And I guess I got scared too after just something little like that radio show. And I was like, oh, it's really hard for me to do it now because I still get kind of scared and losing my body.
Right. So for me, I mean, I've experienced it a couple of times. Most of it's by accident. And for me, it's kind of like, I do remember feeling that state of vibration, but I always get these weird chills over my body first. So I don't know if that happens to anybody else, but for me, I get like...
I think that has to be vibration state, right?
You think so? And so like it goes from like the top of my head to my feet. It just chills like all over. And then I'll just kind of feel like I'm hovering, but it's not like I'm hovering over my body. I feel like I go somewhere else, like out, like in the universe.
Do you see your body if you look back down?
Okay. No, you know what? I feel like I always see blackness.
That would scare me. I remember reading about the two. Now I remember reading the two different kinds of astral projection. Was one staying on this realm where you see yourself, and another was going into like a spiritual realm and being able to be there. Oh. And so I think you're supposed to have that golden the cord between you. Have you ever seen that in your astral projections?
I've only read about it, but to be honest, I don't remember ever seeing that cord.
Yeah, same. That's just a common thing I hear about how that cord is connecting you.
I would like a cord because that would be nice.
Maybe it's invisible.
Yeah.
I'll try to reach for it next time.
When I was reading about it, it was reminding me, I remember on Donnie Darko, how that thing came out of his chest.
And he would follow it.
Reminded me of when I was reading.
Me too.
Yeah. I was like, maybe that's what it is.
For my astral projections, I always stumbled upon it by accident too. I remember the first time I was really young, and I realized that I was waking up every day at 3 a.m, and I would lay in bed for a little bit, and then I'd go to the bathroom where as soon as you flip on the switch, there would be a radio on with music. I don't know, my dad liked to have that in the bathroom, and it also had a clock on it, so I would notice that every time I made it to the bathroom, it was around 3:04 or 3:06. I did that for a lot of nights for a long time, and the first time I ever experienced astral projection was when I woke up and did everything I usually do, and then went back to my bed, and I thought my sister was laying there. I thought she had taken my bed, but it was me. And I remember realizing it was me and trying to turn me over and freaking out, and then I woke up in my own regular body. So I was like, whoa, that was a crazy dream.
Whoa.
And then it happened again, and this time I was just like, well, I'm gonna go walk around, I guess. And it's crazy. I was telling Sharon the other night about how fearless kids are, and how we are when we're younger. We could go outside. Like, I used to walk around my neighborhood dark nights just by myself, wasn't scared of anything. And now I would never even, I would go outside and walk my dog barely to just the grass that's in the area, and then run back in my apartment. Like, what was I thinking when I was this young? And whenever I would wake up from in my astral projection state, I remember being a kid and just walking around and looking around my backyard and my front yard, and then just going back to sleep, back to just lay where my body was. And it just started off like that, little experiences. I wasn't really too curious about it, being young, just walking around like, oh, I thought it was something normal almost.
What did you see or experience?
Nothing. Right. It was just like, I was just there. I guess I didn't really think about feeling at the first couple times, but I remember just everything was just normal. Everything right now, except my body was over there and I wasn't.
Yeah, so you never left like the earth plane yet?
I don't think so, no. And I remember going outside one night while this was happening, and I would run down the street and try to jump and make myself try to fly, but I would just jump really high, and it wasn't really even that high, and I would just land back down. So I'd be really upset that I couldn't figure out how to fly in my dreams yet, you know. Did you ever try flying in your dreams?
I never have done it.
No.
It's really, I don't know what I'm thinking. Neither. I'm just trying to be like a bird and lift up my chest and just hope it works. And I remember just trying to do that for a whole night.
It's that bird seed.
Yeah, it was down bird seed. I remember doing that a lot because I was trying to just fly, and I remember I couldn't do it. So that's why it was kind of not, I guess, that crazy to me, because it was just for me, everything was normal. I was just on the earth realm still, you know. I didn't try going to, you know, the lower world or anything. I was just like, this is kind of boring. It's late at night and everyone's asleep. I'm going to go back to my bed.
Yeah, like you said, as a kid, you probably didn't know about that kind of stuff, and you were just having a natural experience.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. Or thought you were dreaming or sleepwalking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I've had other experiences where I've fainted, and I've seen myself fall from 3 backyards down. I remember fainting in my friend's backyard, and each yard had a gate, so I could see myself falling from 3 gates back, and it was this quick side eye view and then a bird's eye view, and I could look down and see myself falling, and I was like, oh, this time I get to fly. Mm-hmm. And then I woke up.
That's crazy.
But I experienced that projection because it was so crazy. Like, oh, I didn't think of it as like a near-death experience. It was more like I did that thing again. I'm supposed to be in there. Because I was just fainting.
Yeah.
It's like, dang it, I left my body again.
That is crazy.
Let me go back real quick.
Yeah, you're used to it happening by now. And Wendy, you've experienced it quite a few times as well, right?
Yeah, but not like that. I mean, I do remember experiencing, it was kind of giving me a flashback almost when you were telling your story, Maria, because I do remember I slept walk a lot when I was a kid. But my mom would say she would physically see me sleepwalking around and she'd follow me. Like, I would literally walk out the front door and walk around the block. But I do remember a couple of times as a kid going out too. But I don't know about you, Maria, but I actually felt the cold from outside when I was younger. But as an adult, when I do it, it's literally, I don't see like my neighborhood or my room. I'm literally out in space somewhere is what it reminds me of. That it's just all kind of black around me with these lights, and sometimes I'm flying through space almost. I don't know exactly where I'm going.
That doesn't, I mean, I guess like I was telling Sharon the other day how I feel too grounded, and I feel like that kind of projection would scare me because I don't like I said earlier, I would like my cord, I wouldn't want to be just floating around. So I don't think I have those experiences because I just don't think, I think my soul already knows, I'll just be chill here, walking around. I mean, I try now that I'm older, I've tried to experience traveling elsewhere in the realms with drumming or music. So I think now I'm ready to go and ready to try it, but I think being in space would terrify me.
That
no
reminds
food
me
out there.
That reminds me of how you're an earth element, like you're really rooted. You don't want to leave Earth.
I mean, I will eventually.
Right. Well, I'm surprised because I'm just like Sharon. I'm a Pisces, so I'm surprised I don't go into the ocean. But I don't know why I'm going out into space. I don't actually try to astral project on my own. It just sort of happens.
Yeah, same here. I guess maybe if they were to put me there, whoever they are, or if I was to end up there, put myself there, I don't know. I just think I'd be terrified, screaming the whole time. I want my feet on the... I mean, I want to fly every once in a while.
I don't know. I always feel this sense of peace. Like, I'm not scared when it's happening. I do know that before I go to bed, because I am always scared, like, something's going to try to get inside of me. Since I don't astral project on my own. Like, I mean, my body just makes it happen when I'm sleeping. So for me, I'm just like always say some sort of spell right before I fall asleep. I'm like, this is my body. Nobody else is allowed inside of it.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's smart. It's like Insidious.
Right. Yeah.
I've heard there's like different planes that you can get to, and I would wonder if you're like flying through the galaxies is somewhere between those types of planes.
It could
like there's supposed to be one realm that you can control everything around you, and it just almost sounds like Minecraft. Like you just want to build it and you do.
Right.
And then there's the other realm that I think is more common that you can go to that's just more like a utopia and everything's happy and pleasant. But the most common plane that people experience could be the lower plane. Demonic type entities are supposed to be there.
Oh, I'm glad I've never been there.
Yeah, I mean, I heard that in that lower realm you can find old sages, and you can find spirit animals. Like they still reside there. I heard it's not just negative, it's just darker.
Oh.
And I don't know, I guess we'll never be able to describe that properly, but
yeah, it's probably more complicated than black and white.
Yeah, I heard that maybe evil beings or angry beings reside there, but that they are not the controllers, and you could still fight these entities if you're strong, or if you find your spirit guide down there. I was reading a book on shamanic magic, which is really what I want to get into a lot more. I was thinking about going on a trip to look for my spirit guides, but it still sounds scary, you know?
Right.
I want you to be there, Sharon, because I'm going to be scared by myself.
Do I just get to watch over your body?
No. I mean, it was like that one time we tried doing it with the drums, but I feel like we're not going to the same place. It's like Sharon's going somewhere else.
Hey guys, I fall asleep. You can't expect me to go anywhere with you.
I actually was reading that they give classes on astral projection at certain colleges. Could you imagine?
I want to go.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, could you imagine?
I want to go so bad.
I remember the radio show I was listening to that was talking about it was giving people like a little lesson on how to do it too. And the way he said was to try to make yourself wake up every night at like a certain time so your body just gets used to waking up. And one of those days you're going to be in between the sleep and the awake stage. You know how whenever you already get in a routine, you're already waking up at like 5:50 instead of 6 o'clock sometimes, you know, right before your alarm goes off. And one of those nights, he said that you will be in that half asleep, half awake stage. And when that happens, to sit yourself up really, really fast so that way you can pull your spirit out of your physical body.
That's smart, because that's basically what happened to me when I got woken up. So what time should I be setting my alarm to, like, before you wake up?
Whichever time is. You could do it in the day. I don't think there's any. I mean, just whenever. 6 a.m., 4 a.m., something weird, I guess.
I think I read that in order to get into that astral state, they call it like the I'm going to say it totally wrong, but hypnagogic or something.
Hypnagogic?
Yeah, and so for that state, they said it takes about an hour, anywhere between 30 minutes to 80 minutes, something like that. It happens before REM state, so it'll happen before you're actually dreaming.
Oh, yeah. I should get one of those apps to, like, monitor when I go into REM.
Because the theories that, I mean, the techniques you were talking about earlier, they're all, like, already while you're awake, you know?
Yeah.
It'd be easier just to stumble upon it.
Not everyone can be so lucky and just leave their body. But then you guys are saying it's not that lucky.
It's not fun. I mean, I guess sometimes it's fun, but
when you were talking earlier about the planes, one of them where you could just do whatever you want, I thought about this one experience I had where I don't know how to swim very well, so I'm just terrible. I could doggy paddle for like 3 minutes and then I'm just gonna go down. And so I knew of this while I'd woken up in this crazy dream, and I remember telling myself I wanted to go swimming. So I remember putting myself on top of this cliff, just jumping off into the water and feeling all the water like under my arms and just rush all over me. And I wasn't scared because I knew that I was asleep, that I wouldn't be drowning. And then I just did that the whole night. I just put myself back on that cliff and just jumped off for like ever.
That's cool.
It's very Pocahontas.
And so was it daylight there?
Yeah, it was like, it was just like I was at a regular beach. I just put myself on this beach that I just thought up in my mind. It was crazy. And it was crazy because how I wasn't scared knowing that I was asleep, but in these other states of sleep paralysis, when I wake up, I should be the same brave. If you think those evil beings during sleep paralysis are feeding off of fear.
Right. It could be.
So that's going to wrap up our discussion today for astral projection. If you guys have had any experiences with today's discussion, please make sure to comment on this podcast to let us know. And I'd like to thank our special guest, Maria, for sharing her experience with us today. Thanks for guesting.
Yes, thank you so much.
It was nice.
And thank you, listeners, for joining the Cousins Coven podcast.
We interrupt this regular podcast programming to give you an astral projection update. Wendy experienced a strange jello body phenomenon the night this podcast was recorded. Please enjoy.
So the other night, I was like, okay, I'm recording down in the office. I wonder if I can astral project down to the office. I was like, then I can get an EVP of myself.
Oh my gosh, you're ambitious.
I know. I was like, that'd be so cool. Okay, so I'm laying in my bed and I ended up just falling asleep. But 2 hours later, I woke up. Something woke me up and I don't know what it was. And I felt weird, like my body felt kind of filled with electricity. So I was like, oh, you know what? This would be a good time to try to astral project. So I'm laying there and I'm going to try Sharon's technique, and I'm going to do where I try to picture my feet are stretching out and then my head is stretching out, and I'm going back and forth and trying to do this. But actually what happened was all of a sudden I started to feel like I was jello, like my body was jello, and my
face was coming out of my other face, my jello face. So my soul was coming out of my jello face. And I could feel my body lifting out of there, like I was shedding this jello skin.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then
This is a new technique, jello technique.
So I was like, oh my God, I just came out. Like I could feel my lips coming out of my lips. Does that make sense? Like,
yes, I can totally imagine it.
So it's just coming up, and then the next thing I know, I'm hovering above my body. I don't see the silver cord or anything like that, but all of a sudden I'm standing in my room, and if I think of a place, I can go there. So I just somehow knew that because I have astral projected before, so I was like, this has to be the same. So I'm standing there and I'm looking at my husband and I sleeping, and I can see the dogs, and my dog looks at me.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
And she looks at me, and I was like, I just put my finger to my lips, and she laid her head back down. And so I was like, okay, I want to be in the office. So I went down into the office, and I was like, I know I'm recording. So I got really close up to where the microphone was, and I was like singing into it. So remember how I told you I got that singing thing? I started thinking maybe that was me singing, but I'm second guessing myself. So I don't know if it was me who was singing or if it was my neighbor who was singing.
You can't tell based off listening to it if it's you or not?
No. Because it's so far away, I don't know if I was loud enough, but I was just like, basically, I'm talking to you right now. And then I was like jumping up and down in here in the room, but I don't think that any of that was caught. And then the next thing I knew, I was in space. So sometimes when I'm not even thinking about space, but I feel this pull inside my body from my head, from my astral head, that always tries to pull me somewhere else. So when I'm in that astral state, it's trying to take me somewhere else, and I don't know where it's trying to take me.
I wonder if that's something you should go with the flow. Is that like your higher self guiding you?
Maybe. I do remember once doing it. For me, it was like when it pulled me, I went somewhere else. It was like I was traveling to a different planet. To me, it looked like a planet.
That's awesome. Did you ever like land in a different realm aside from just floating in the universe?
Yeah, so I landed on this planet that it pulled me to. Yeah, but it was really pretty. I don't really remember too much about it. I remember snippets. I don't, because it's kind of like I was there and then I went into a deep sleep. And so, and I don't know how I get back to my own body. Ever. I never remember how I get back.
I wonder if this is something through hypnosis, if we could like recall what you experienced.
Maybe that'd be something to explore.
Yeah, definitely. So that's kind of where the journey ends in your memories?
Yeah, so like even though I went out into space after, leaving my jello body, going at my office, and then I woke up. That was it.
That's awesome. I can't believe you just opened yourself up to the thought of creating your own EVP, and that's where it took you.
I know, I was like, I want to get it. Wouldn't that be so cool?
That would be really cool. I guess maybe an astral form can't vocalize?
Maybe. I started thinking
interact?
that. Yeah, I started thinking that.
Although it's really cool that's the second story I've heard where animals have reacted to astral bodies.
Yeah, it was really fun. Like, I thought I would try it again, but it really is draining. Like, the whole next day, I was so tired.
I'm sure. That's awesome. I'm glad we recorded that, honestly, because that is a cool little update.
Yeah. It's a little update of my jello body.
Yes, jello technique. So starting next Wednesday, we're going to begin our 4 weeks of spooky theme podcast for the month of October. So we're going to kick things off by discussing ghosts and EVPs, and new podcasts are going to be released every Wednesday. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We have a very informative witchy blog at cousinscoven.home.blog. Please send in your questions or suggestions for cauldron topics to cousinscoven2@gmail.com.
As always, may you find happiness in your heart, love for yourself, and joy in each other. Blessings to all.
Have you ever heard of astral projection?
Out-of-body experience?
You see, these are people with the ability to leave their physical body and to travel to different places in astral form. He's been doing it in his sleep for a long time. And he's unafraid because he thinks they're dreams.